In this video, we're going to take a look at how I like to analyze and overcome complex shapes. So looking at the pieces that we have left in the bracket part, before we get down to the camera, we have this cylindrical piece here, which really isn't all that complex, but then we have this piece right here. Now from the front, it looks like it's just a cylinder that has an inset with an extrusion, and then we have this piece right out here that looks like it extrudes out, but it's kind of has this U shape, and it's very angular. Now looking at the left view by hitting L on the keyboard, you'll notice that the top of that cylinder is cut halfway off. So what we need to do is we need to think about how we're going to get that modeled, and how do we create the interior of the cylinder. So what I want to do with getting started with this is I like to start off with the part that has the entire primitive itself. So we're going to start off with this cylinder right here. So let's go to our Create panel, and I'm going to hit B to go to the bottom view. And I'm going to turn on the snapping, and we're using vertex snapping in this case. And then I'm going to hit F3 and just zoom right in here, and I'm going to create that cylinder right there in the center there. Now I'm not worried about the size or anything, I just want to make sure that I have enough to create the cylinder, and then I'm going to right click and turn off that vertex snapping. Let's go to the Modify panel and let's adjust our height. Let's go ahead and do something like maybe 2, and we'll do a radius of 2 as well. Let's go to our left view by hitting L on the keyboard and then F3 to go back to our to get out of our wireframe. Let's grab the Move tool and bring this down. Now it's pretty close, the height's good, but my radius needs to go up just a little bit, so we'll go to about 2.5. Now with that, let's right click and convert it over to Editable Poly. Let me go ahead and try that one more time. Convert to Editable Poly, and I know that goes off screen, but I think we should have that by now. So now that that has been created, let's talk about how to get this part right here. This could be a little different. Looking at the way that it's built, it feels like some of the information is taken away from that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to vertex mode, and I'm going to select these and just pull those up a little bit higher. I just want to make sure that we have enough here to where we can continue with this shape here. So to do this, let's go ahead and go to Edit, Swift Loop. I'm going to hit Alt-X, and I'm going to go ahead and create a segment right there. So that's going to be the bottom part of this cylinder. Now let's talk about how we get that. Let's go to Polygon mode, and I'm actually going to select all of the polygons in this loop. So select one, hold Shift, and then left click to create that entire loop selection. Let's extrude it, but we're going to use the local normal extrusion method, and I'm going to draw this down, and I'm going to go to, looks like maybe around 1.4, 1.5. It might be a little different for you, but just get it close. And let's hit OK on that. And then now what I need to do is I need to extrude this up to get the rest of it. Now before I do that, let's hit P on the keyboard, and let's take a look at what we have to work with. Now you'll notice here that this is very thick, and I don't believe that the thickness of that is going to be quite like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit and Swift Loop, and I'm going to create a loop right here on the top. And I'm not going to go halfway, maybe a quarter of a way through the distance here. So let's right click, let's choose this polygon and then hold Shift, select the next one in that loop, and it'll select the whole thing. Now instead of taking all of this, let's hit L on the keyboard, instead of taking all of that, I'm just going to hold down Alt and deselect this back half. Let's extrude this up, and we could do 1.5, or we could just drag it up on the height, or just hit OK and then adjust it with your Move tool. Either way is fine. I'm going to make sure that it's up inside of that bracket. Okay, so it's something like that. And then now what I want to do is I want to take this polygon right here, and I'm going to inset it a little bit, because what I want to do is I want to create a little bit of a rim, and then I'm going to push it down or extrude it down. So we'll do about 0.3 and then hit OK, and then we're going to extrude it in a negative direction. Okay, let me pull this down, and I don't want to go through the model, okay, like this. That would create some problems, so let's pull it up in there, And if you need to, go to your left view and you can take a look at the thickness that I'm giving that. So something like that. Now, we've created most of the shape, but there are some issues that we have. One issue is that we have all of these polygons right out here, and those are not in the reference image. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete those, and I'm just going to delete all of these that I can't see. I am going to leave this rim right here because that's going to be really important to us. So let's go ahead and delete that. And by deleting that, I can now go to edge mode. And if I double click on this edge right here, well, it's going to go all the way through. So let's just hold down Control and left click on each one of these edges on the bottom. Now, once you have these selected, let me show you a really cool tool for selecting something that is similar to that. Let's go up to Modify Selection, and look here, we have Similar. So if I left click on that, it will select any edges that are similar to that. Now looking at this, it's saying, I don't get it. I don't see any edges that are similar to this. The reason for that is because it looks at the topology that's on the other side of it. So it doesn't actually see anything like this. Now if I were to select this edge and go to Modify Selection and Similar, notice how it selects all of those. This is a great way to select topology very quickly, but it does have some caveats, so just be careful of that. Now, one thing that I do notice is that we have this edge right here, but we don't have that underneath to bridge that across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit, Swift Loop, and I'm going to add a loop here underneath. Now what I want to do is I'm going to left click right here in the middle, and then I'm going to hold down Control, Alt, and then left click and drag that edge to right here. By doing that, you'll notice that it conforms to the edge that it's closest to. Okay. Now, if you hold down Control Alt, again, notice this little box that it creates. Anything that's on this side of that box, the topology, it's going to conform to that. If it's on the left side of that box, it's going to conform to the topology on the left side. So let's pull it over to the middle, hold down Control Alt, left click and drag again over here. Now let's go ahead and go to edge mode. Let me select these edges, and let's go all the way around. Whoops, let's not get anything through. And then I'm going to go here, here, and then across. Now there may be multiple ways of creating this object, but I chose this way to start off with the main cylinder shape first, because I like to start off with something that's whole and complete. And then if I need to take away, I can do that. It's much easier to take away on a complex shape like this. Now with this, let's hit Bridge, and that will bridge those polygons. And now we've closed that up, and we have this cylindrical shape that pushes down into the mesh. And then we have this hemisphere type shape, or half circle, I should say, that's above that. Now let's go ahead and make sure that we quadrify our mesh. So I'm going to select this vertex and this one. Let's right click and use Connect, and then we're going to right click and use Cut to go from here to here. Now we also need to do that on the inside. Now sometimes with something like this, the inside can be a little difficult to cut through, and so what I like to do instead in situations like this is to just select that polygon, and then I'll use Inset, and I will inset this really close to something like that. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and do my cuts. So I'll select these and then connect, and then I'm going to right click and cut from here down to here. And then once that is done, I can now come in and just go to edge mode, and I can select all of these edges right here. And let's not get anything outside. I'm going to hit Control Backspace. Now by doing that, you'll see that everything has come together, and it was really easy to cut that. So the final thing that we need to do with this is we need to create the piece that kind of comes off the backside here. So looking at this, maybe from the front view, we could see that it's this U shape, and it's very angular, so it's the shape of this polygon, and it does have this cutout. Okay, and it has this angle on the front. So let's talk about how to get it really fast. Let's go to edge mode and go to edit Swift Loop. And what I'm going to do, let's make sure I'm in my perspective view there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to basically just make a cut at the top of that bracket. And I actually might go a little bit below it. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut right about there. And then I'm going to go to edge mode, select just this edge, and then hit ring. And let's do connect. And let's do 2 segments here, and actually very close. Let's do something like maybe around 34, 33, something like that. What I'm looking at is this square right here. Just making sure that it's about the same shape all the way through. Let's go ahead and hit OK, and then grab polygon mode. Select these polygons right here, and then all we're going to do is we're going to extrude those out. Let's extrude them in a positive direction. And let me go to my front view, just kind of look at that. And looks like we'll go to maybe about 3 or 4. I think 4 might be really good. And then hit OK. And then the final thing that I need to do is I need to get the taper on this. So to do that, I'm going to hit Alt-X. Let's go to our front view. And I'm going to go to Edit Swift Loop. And I'm going to just make a cut right there. And then go to Edge Mode. Select these edges right here. And then let's go to Local. And it doesn't really like that too much. So let's try View. Let's see. Let's try. Oh, all we have to do is actually constrain this to the edges. Let's try that. So all I wanted to do is just slide straight back along this topology. So let's use constraints edge and then pull it back in the X direction, and there you go. So if you go to your front view, you can definitely see that moving in the right direction. All right, so now that we have that final piece there, all we need to do now is go ahead and just apply our materials to it. There might be a little bit of an issue with these extra edges that we've created. One way that you could get rid of those or optimize this is to right-click, target weld this vertex to here and this one to here, and then go to Edge Mode, double-click on the remaining edges, and then just hit Control Backspace. So that quadrifies it all the way through again, and the only thing we have to worry about are these 2 triangles when it smooths. Now if I want to make sure that that doesn't pinch in an odd way, I can always quadrify this by selecting this edge and this edge. So, and then we'll connect it with a single segment right in the center, and then hit OK. Let's grab our vertices, and we'll scale those, scale them in a local direction here, and scale those in just like that. And we've created 3 quads. So that's a great way to optimize triangles that are in the middle like that. Now that we're ready to go, let's just change its color to black and then apply our material. So now that we've created those, let's move on into our next lesson where we're going to create this complex piece here. And we'll just talk a little bit more about how to use these tools and how to overcome even more complex shapes.